All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Feliciano. Welcome to CONSERVATISH, episode 89. 89? Yeah, I think 89. New episode every Monday and Thursday. You can find this podcast anywhere, YouTube, SoundCloud, Google Play, blah, blah, blah. And there's you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. You can support this podcast at patreon.com/conservatish. And remember, August 17th, big album release party at Brick and Mortar Music Hall in San Francisco, August 17th. I am very entertaining, not just handsome. So feel free to come to that show. Feel free to come to that show. It's going to be a lot of damn fun. Poya Del Mar, the San Francisco drag queen, is going to be emceeing. I've got DJ Kevy Kev on the ones and twos. It's going to be a fucking blast. So come on by. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is not on camera because it's that kind of guest. I'm very happy. You know, sometimes I have a guest on who pisses off my more liberal friends, and I just feel good about it. I don't know why. It's just I enjoy pissing people off, but I guess it's that kind of thing. But our guest today is SF Thought Criminal. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So when did you make this account?
Around New Year's.
Okay, so it's pretty recent.
Yep.
All right. And what was the impetus for it?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody's getting banned, so I was like, okay, yeah, well, I want to speak about this stuff.
Right. You want to speak about just all the banning and the censorship and the bullshit going on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff?
Yeah, and also I just felt like at the time I had a job and they didn't want people to talk about political stuff on their social media. So I was like, well, I want to talk about it. So
right.
I'll just not use my name and
Yeah.
I'll talk about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And have you enjoyed yourself doing it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I feel it's more like a calling, like I have to do it.
Yeah, like
So,
Braveheart.
Maybe, yeah.
What has been the drawbacks to it, I guess?
Well, it takes up a lot of my time,
Okay.
Time and energy.
Mm-hmm.
And, people worry about me.
Oh, like people who know you are like, oh, you should be careful.
Yes.
Okay. Did they warn you about coming on my show?
No.
Oh, okay, that's good. I guess I don't have very much of a reputation yet, unfortunately. But I'm changing it. Hopefully, I definitely have been shadow banned and messed with on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube. So it's fun that I think I reached out to you maybe 3 weeks ago because I actually went to Instagram headquarters and I talked about it on the show. And talked about how I've hit a lot of a kind of a brick wall when it comes to reaching new people, unless of course I pay Instagram and pay Facebook and pay YouTube to promote the episodes and stuff. But I find that once I started having more guests on who were more kind of right-leaning or libertarian, I started having my views go down and my likes go down and that sort of thing. What's been your experience with that?
Well, my personal experience has been I had I think my earliest post that got removed was on Instagram, my Gavin McInnes post. They didn't notify me. It just disappeared. I noticed later.
They didn't even notify you after the fact?
Yeah.
Okay.
They never got notified. And when you click on it, it doesn't show an error. It's just blank white nothing. It's weird. I haven't seen that otherwise.
Yeah,
so that's my Gavin McInnes post, guys. You can I don't know if you can even. You might be able to find it by like a link to it. I think I linked to it somewhere in one of my tweets, but
okay.
I have a lot of tweets.
Where can people find you on Twitter and on Instagram, by the way?
Yeah, so I started my Instagram account with SF Thought Criminal, and then I was going to do that for Instagram, but apparently their character limit's a little bit shorter, so SF Thought Crime on Twitter.
Okay.
Close.
Right.
But
Close enough.
yeah, I mean, you should be able to find it by typing in SF Thought Criminal, except I'm a little shadow banned, I think.
Yeah.
But everyone thinks that, and no one really knows who really is and how to prove it.
Right.
So.
I mean, that's what's so weird about it for me is that I know that I can be, I I don't want to be one of those paranoid people. I don't want to be one of those people who just assumes that it's the big government coming after me, or big corporations coming after me and stuff. But I mean, the reality is the reality. I mean, if it's happening at these other companies, and YouTube censorship is coming out, you know, with Steven Crowder stuff and all this Veritas project and stuff. With all this happening, it's not just my paranoia. It's not just me being, I'm not getting the attention I deserve. Like, it's legit happening.
Yeah, and a lot of us suspected it for a long time, and then Project Veritas has done probably the best work of anyone actually exposing the truth about it. But yeah, so
you need a minute?
You reached out to me on June 6th, and I
you've got documents.
published
I like that.
you on June 10th. So
yeah. Oh, that was my birthday, by the way.
Yeah, well,
yeah, I'm 33 years old. But yeah, so yeah, what was your experience like? Who was? Because you said you saw it happening. Who was the one who was like, all right, that's fucking it. Enough of this. Was it Loomer? Was it Crowder? Who was it when you initially were like, all right, you know what? Something's got to be done.
Yeah, I think it's the trifecta. It's Alex Jones, Laura Loomer, and Gavin McInnes, none of which I followed before they got banned.
Interesting. Okay.
All of which I am huge fans of now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually believed some of the fake news about Alex Jones.
Right.
And then I went and I listened to his show, and I'm like, oh, you know, he talks about aliens, interdimensional demons. Okay,
sure.
That's colorful language, but he's just talking about demons, and every Christian believes in demons. That's pretty mainstream.
Sure.
He's not a freak.
Yeah, sure.
He's just colorful.
Even if he said things that I disagree with, I still think, even Farrakhan being all anti-Jew, right? I disagree with the motherfucker. At the same time, I don't think that someone should be deplatformed to take or have their financial stability taken away because of what they say. You know what I mean? If their idea is a bad idea, legit. Like if it actually was shared that Farrakhan is anti-Semitic, if someone's legit racist, then the people who do follow them will unfollow them. You know what I mean? The people who have a brain will think for themselves. I don't think protecting me, like I'm an adult, you know what I mean? I don't need to be protected from thoughts and ideas.
Right, but it's also better to know what these people are doing, and I think a few people have pointed this out, but you know, they like to say sunlight is the best disinfectant. So there's two aspects to this in addition to that. If someone is legit crazy and they're radicalizing people, well, wouldn't you rather be able to see it happen than have it happening in a dark corner? And then part two is, what if they could be de-radicalized? Well, it's not going to happen if you don't talk to them and you ban them. Right. But if you allow open dialogue, then you might be able to.
Right.
So that's a much preferable option.
And you experience for yourself, like I've experienced when I was a kid, when you make something taboo, it's like, oh, I really want that now. You know what I mean? I'm curious.
Effect is real.
Right. I'm Streisand Effect. I've never heard of that. What's the Streisand effect?
Streisand. So she found out that there was some satellite imagery of her location, whatever it was, house or something. Okay. And she was like, oh my gosh, people are going to see this. This should be private. I don't want anyone to know about it. Right. And so she went after them, trying to tell them like to take it down so no one would know. But no one cared or was looking at it. Once she did that, then everyone was like, oh, I want to go see. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you experience for yourself when, okay, who are these people that are banned? Now let me look at them. That's exactly my experience with Milo. When I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months after 2016 election, and everyone on Facebook was just, Milo is the devil. I was like, you know what? Let me just see if he's actually Satan. Let me actually see if he's Hitler. And I started listening to some stuff, and I'm like, I kind of like this dude. He's a bit flashy. He says some things I disagree with sometimes, but overall, on the whole, he's kind of tongue in cheek. He's kind of shitty and kind of funny, and you know, and at least he's saying something he believes in. You know what I mean? And I kind of through that it opened up. I remember it was literally over a weekend. I digested a bunch of Milo, and then I started watching a bunch of Camille Paglia. You ever listen to Camille Paglia? She's a first-wave feminist, hates new feminism, and is very vocal about it. She's a fucking badass. Look up Camille Paglia, Paglia. Looked up her, and then got into Crowder and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, all these people. not on the left. And I was like, yeah, these people are not the devil. And that's what made me distrust the left even more. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, you know, when an ex-girlfriend had called me on the night of the 2016 election, and she's like, you know, it's the end of the world. I'm like, no, I don't think so. And I hadn't voted for Trump. I had voted for Hillary, and before then Bernie. But then I started digging, and through being told, once I'm told something and a lot of people all believe it, that's when my rebellious brain is like, all right, fuck you. Let me actually find out for myself. And through that, it's very freeing to find out stuff for yourself. It's tedious, but it's quite freeing, I find.
Yeah, it is. And it's just crazy how much they think they can get away with all this lying. Like, eventually it's going to backfire, you would think. I mean, I don't know, but the walk away movement is a real thing, and they want to call it Russian bots, but you know,
right. I've actually met the motherfuckers. They're not Russian bots.
Russian bots. I've met them. They're amazing people. And it's like they're going to be so shocked again, just like they were in 2016 when they put all those fake polls out, and then, oh my gosh, their guy won. What the heck?
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't vote for Trump either. I voted for Cruz. And I actually believed the fake news about Trump even up to that day. And I was just like, well, thank God it's not her, but we'll see what happens with this guy. I hope we don't start a war with North Korea. And here we are now. We have maybe almost peace with North Korea. Right. And, you know, he's been doing a great job in this country. And I'm really, looking back, I'm glad it wasn't Cruz, because Trump has done a lot better. And now Cruz is better because of Trump. It's just really crazy what the news does. It's not, you know, so it's big tech, it's the news, it is the deep state, that's a real thing, and they call us conspiracy theories, but it's real. It's Ivy League, you know, it's all these major megaphones, and you know, so I don't know about you, but I am pretty deeply religious, and when I read in the scriptures, what I see is it says, we know that we are from God and the whole world is in the power of the evil one. And I know that if you look at every one of these major spheres of society run by elites, you can tell they're pushing demonic things.
Okay.
They're pushing this, you know, extreme perversion on children. That's weird. And they're trying to kill babies. Something a little shady about that. And they just want to push that so extremely.
Right.
Yeah. And this Democratic debate that just happened is such a clown show.
It was so creepy. Yeah. I was just talking about it with, who did I have? What's her name? Damn it. Lindsey Graffwall. Right. Have you heard of Lindsey Graffwall?
No.
She's a activist on the free speech front line for sure. I had her on episode before you. We just had a conversation about it yesterday. And that same thing. Now, what's your definition of a deep state? Because that's one, the whole, the paranoia, some call it conspiracy theory. What's your definition of that?
I love it that it's such a conspiracy theory, because it's a conspiracy theory until it's a conspiracy fact, because we all know that Facebook, Google, and a lot of them are all spying on us, and that was leaked in like 2013 that they'd been doing it since like 2007, and it was all after 9/11, and that's what inspired it.
Okay.
So that's all in official documents. No one's even denying it. James Clapper lied about it back then, but he doesn't lie about it anymore. Everyone knows.
Okay.
So that's the NSA. That's Prism. You can look that up. If you just look, there's like a Wikipedia article about it. Prism, surveillance.
Okay.
So it's like it's all there. And then, if you want to know what big tech and the government know about you, you can just go and look. If you go into your Facebook, click on ad preferences, you can see they have a whole profile of you.
Right.
You can see it on Instagram. You can see it everywhere. You can go into your Google Maps, and you can go into your Facebook, and you can see they've been tracking your GPS for your whole life. And unless you went and explicitly turned it off, they know everywhere you've been.
Right.
So that's not in any way a conspiracy. And, they also spied on Trump, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I guess the switch becomes, when do they use it for bad? And they've already started doing that with the because it's one thing to be like, well, we're gonna take these cookies from you. We're gonna learn all we can about you so that we can give it to Nabisco, and so that they can, since you liked a video about Fig Newtons, That way, now we're going to sell you more fig Newtons. That's already creepy in its own right.
But you heard about the Cambridge Analytica scandal.
No, what is this?
So that's when Facebook's giving all this data out to third parties, and then the third parties are using it to create profiles of people and using it to sway people's opinions because they know what can manipulate people.
Right.
It's all psychological profiles. It's very creepy stuff.
Right. And it's getting more blatant. You know, it's getting less, you know, oh, we're just going to use it for fucking fig Newtons ads. Now it's turning into, okay, we know that you started a podcast and you have conservative people on your show from time to time. We're going to go ahead and start to squelch you down because we know better. We know better than you. And I fucking cannot stand motherfuckers telling me they know better than me. I'm an adult. You know what I mean? Like, don't treat me like a child, Facebook, Google. Don't, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. I hate it when these companies or these governments or whatever. But the thing that really bothers me is that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, especially 20 plus, it was the conservative right who was wanting the stopping of free speech. It was the conservative right, the religious right who were wanting, you know, with the PMRC back in the 80s, putting stickers on CDs. It was the people on the right saying, you know, we need to get Time Warner in trouble for Cop Killer, you know, Ice-T. You know, and now it's completely switched, and it's kind of, now that people have been used to saying things like, I was just watching a video, Paul Provenza had this show, it's all over YouTube, it's called the Green Room. It's a really funny show where I think it was on YouTube or HBO. Maybe 10 years ago, and that's Roseanne Barr was on, and she was talking about how it's still dangerous. This was must have been 2010. It's still dangerous to have anything but a right-wing opinion, and that was 10 years ago. You know, Bush had just left office. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. You know, they still were stuck in that idea that it was dangerous to have a left-wing view, and now it's completely fucking switched. Now it's dangerous to have anything except the left. But because of technology and because of the things you've already talked about, it's now more dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're totally right about this, and it's an actually pretty obvious explanation if you think about it. It's because conservatives are generally more religious, Judeo-Christian, and they are going to tend towards, you know, being, you know...
Passive?
Well, no, being like puritanical. They don't want you to have your, you know... curse words in your porn and all that. So that's why they were being a little censorious back in the traditional days, right? Now, what is on the other side? The leftists are generally going to tend towards big government. So, you know, you got your moderate Democrat, then you got socialists, you go further, you got communists, you go further, you got totalitarian, right? That's the far left, the furthest you can go. So the further left you go, the more censorious you're going to be. And that's what is obvious. That's what they did in Nazi Germany. They were burning books. That's what they're far left. That's what they did. They took away guns. So what's what they take away? The First Amendment, the Second Amendment in the U.S. That's why we have it. They take away your guns. They take away your speech. They did it in Russia, in Soviet Union, and they did it in China. And they're still doing it in China. And really, Google is collaborating with China right now. And communist Chinese government is really up to no good, because not only are they collaborating with Google for surveillance and censorship, doing the Dragonfly project, look that up if you don't know what it is. Also, Apple has given over the keys to the iCloud to the communist Chinese government. And what are the government people doing? Well, they're persecuting LGBT, straight up capitalists, because they're communists, but I mean, they're a little bit in the middle now because they want to have success. But what about the Fallon Gang? They're taking out their organs. What about the Uyghur Muslims in the north? They're putting them in basically re-education centers. They're, you know, being brainwashed up there. Tibetan Buddhist persecution. The Christian Protestants are being persecuted. They're literally blowing up their mega churches with bombs, not with people in them. They're not killing. They're not going that far right now, but they're burning their Bibles. They're making the kids sign away, you know, that they're not Christians. They're banning Christmas and Santa in certain towns. And then you got on the Catholic side, the Pope is making an agreement with the communist government and
with China.
And I forget which way it is, if it's the one or the other, but one of them appoints bishops and the other has a veto. I forget which one is the Pope and which one is the government, but you can find that online. That's a pretty recent development, like the last year or two. So it's pretty ridiculous what's going on in China. Not to mention they're spying on us in what is it? And that was in an article, the big hack. And there's this tiny, like smaller than a piece of rice microchip, and they put it on servers and what is it? Apple, Amazon, stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy.
They make all of our phones. They make all of our computers.
Yeah, it's true.
The Fallon Gang stuff, that's legit. For those who don't know, for years it was Fallon Gang is those people doing yoga out on the street out front of the Chinese embassy in San Francisco to protest. There are those people who were holding up in Chinatown when I was living in Chinatown.
Yeah, they're just some Buddhist cult.
Some Buddhist cult, and they had all these pieces of these pictures and these writings, obviously in Mandarin or Chinese, and they were talking about how the government was stealing organs. And I'm like, well, this is a weird group of people, right? And then it turns out I just saw an article the other day where I think it was a real, I think it was Newsweek or someone legit. Not that Newsweek is always legit, but it wasn't just like, consequences of sound.net.
Yeah, no, it's not a fringe
it was a real
news.
right. It was a
it's
real media
news.
going
it's
like,
been
no,
in,
this
it's
is
been reported
legit.
in the UN, like by NGOs and stuff. It's pretty serious. The human rights abuses from China and just far left people in general are not pretty.
No.
Even in Russia, they made proselytizing illegal if you're not inside a religious building structure. So if you're not in a church, you can't tell someone about Jesus in Russia.
Right.
And that was a year or two ago. That's just Putin made that a law.
Right.
That's just what leftism does.
Right.
And a Christian pastor got arrested in Canada. What was this, like this month? For
I think I heard about this.
because of like he was preaching in front of pride people, and he wasn't some hateful bigot Christian. There are like 10 of those that exist. They are real, but there's like 10.
Yeah.
Along
and
with
Phelps
the KKK.
just died, didn't he? He died recently, a couple years ago.
But this guy was a normal guy, You just go watch the video and arrested. And this is happening all around the world.
Yeah, Canada is losing their motherfucking mind. The other thing is too, I was driving Uber because I'm patreon.com/conservatish. Give me money so I don't have to work anymore. And I was driving Uber and I picked up some guy who was originally from Johannesburg, from South Africa. I told him, please come on the show. He's happy to come on the show. And he talks about growing up and even visiting 2 or 3 times a year and how he feels really at risk there. And he's a black guy, but he was talking about how it is legit that all of the farmers, the white farmers in Zimbabwe, have had all of their farms like burned. They were killed. They all came down to South Africa, and I think the same thing is happening now in South Africa.
It is because of the communists.
Yeah. Oh, really? It's
That
connected
really
to
is.
the communists?
It is,
How?
yeah.
How is it
Well,
connected
the
to
communists, the far left in South Africa, they're the ones who are wanting this tribalism, wanting this, reparations and killing the white farmers. That's what they do.
Right. Yeah, it's some creepy stuff. Lauren Southern did a documentary. I started watching it, but it's so heavy. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when I get done Ubering and podcasting and musicking, I'm just like, I just want to watch The Office again for the 17th time. I don't want to dunk my head in a Lauren Southern documentary about people being murdered. But I do want to watch it, and I will. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, sometimes you have to, I don't know. It's hard to keep up the good fight sometimes,
Well, then there was Borderless that she came out with, and that got censored by YouTube.
Oh, it did?
It did for a temporarily. Well, not temporarily. She went and uploaded another one, which I don't think they censored. But
good.
It's just ridiculous, and it was mild.
Did you see the video of her getting someone in Antifa doused her with piss at a protest?
It's ridiculous. I guess we're gonna air this on Independence Day, but today's date, actually.
Yeah, what is it? June 29th?
June 29th. Do you know this guy, this reporter in Portland, Andy? I don't know how to pronounce it. NGO. It's like
no.
Is that how you say that? Is that Vietnamese or something?
I don't know.
He got attacked by Antifa today. Got beat up. Got his camera equipment stolen.
Fuck.
It's ridiculous. Antifa is out of control.
Is
and they've
Andy
threatened
just
me.
a regular reporter, or is he a conservative reporter?
Actually don't know much about him.
Okay.
But I think this is another one of those Streisand effects. Like, I'm probably going to go and find out more about him now.
Right. Yeah, I definitely there were a couple of people who followed me from that post, so I appreciate you doing that. and I find that my experience is the people who listen to my show, honestly, the fact that it's conservatish, I do have a lot of people in the center, a lot of people on the left, and a lot of people on the right who listen to my show.
That's great.
And what the reason why I enjoy doing what I do, or part of the many reasons besides just the fact that I love to run my goddamn mouth, is also that ultimately we're all somewhere in the middle. We're not all the way on the goddamn left, and we're not all the way on the right. I have people, a guy who I had on my show, Gradient, episode 51, I think. He just shared a post about our episode. He literally in the post was like, I think Kamala Harris did a great job. Listen to this podcast. What do you think, Pete? And I'm like, I don't fucking like no goddamn Kamala Harris. But ultimately to say, he's a left-leaning dude, but when we had our conversation, he was big on free speech. He was big on the fact that he didn't want people to have their rights taken away.
Sounds like a classical liberal.
He's a guy who is learning to be a teacher and is terrified about going into the colleges and trying to teach these kids who are going to be so sensitive he can't even bring up slavery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They're triggered by facts.
Yeah. Did you see that George Washington High School in San Francisco? Did you see this? I think it was a few days ago. So George Washington High School has had this mural for about since 1936. It is a very left-leaning mural. It depicts George Washington and then some slaves, because they wanted to depict George Washington as a slave owner, which he was, and they wanted to depict. And they also have on the same mural, they have Native Americans being slaughtered. So this is a very controversial mural, right? But it's San Francisco School District. Of course they're left-leaning. So of course that would make sense. But the leftist kids at the high school thought that was too violent, that it triggered them. It's in line with their politics, and yet it triggered them, and now the school district unanimously voted to paint over it, which is going to cost, I think, $600,000 plus. Yes, $600,000. And over a year to paint over this mural that already agrees with their stupid fucking politics.
Yeah, they go way too far, and they're eating themselves from the inside out, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah. It's, as Jim Norton puts it, it's dogs running around biting each other on the tail. It's just circle, circle, circle.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. But I think that this whole thing was a plan, and it's just a slow moving thing. But the communists had this plan, years ago.
So who do you think it was? Because obviously in the who's that guy who was the
McCarthy?
Yeah. So in the McCarthy days, they were super anti communist. Oh my fucking god damn it. Jake, my friend Jake, who I've had on the show, very controversial episode, but he's one of my best friends, and we just talk all kinds of horrible shit. And what he talked about was, not on the show, but what he talked about was that there were a group, I think in Russia or Germany, who came over and infiltrated the universities way back in the day, and that's what they've been building on. So maybe that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it's the Nazis and the communists, they share an ideology, just like Sunni and Shia Muslims share an ideology, but they have a big disagreement. Same thing, right? Okay. So basically everyone on the left, and that includes Democrats, they had this plan for years. And what they want to do is they want to degrade society. So everything about this LGBT stuff and how extreme it's gotten and how it's become that versus Christians, why does it have to be that in the first place? Yeah. So now everyone's going to have to choose, and then they're basically going to silence all Christians, all Jews. But why is there this red-green alliance between communists and Muslims? Right. Doesn't it make you think it's a little weird, because the Muslims are throwing gays off buildings in other countries? Try and be gay in any of these Muslim-majority countries and see how it is. So why is Ilhan Omar putting all this hashtag pride stuff? There's something a little suspicious about that.
I think she's trying to keep her job and get more jobs so that she can have more power. I don't necessarily attribute as much bad intention as greedy, creepy, shithead intention.
Well, let me go back to the plan. So
do it.
No matter who, it's not to say which the specific nefarious characters are, but the people set the plan in motion, and then other people just did their bidding. You got plenty of what do you call them, useful idiots to do their bidding, right? Sure. But the way I see it, I've seen it played out. So I've been homeschooled, I've been a part of private school and a part of public school, and I've seen the differences. And when I was in public school, I was noticing that these kids they are trained how to memorize facts. They are not trained how to think critically.
Right.
And that was one of the major differences. So
Right.
we got to think about this in a couple ways. So leftism is big government. The government pays for the school.
Right.
They're teaching kids basically propaganda, and the stuff they're teaching them, they have a vested interest in the government being big because that's where their money comes from.
Okay.
So they're teaching leftism to all the kids, and they're also teaching them to memorize facts and not think critically. And why is that beneficial for the left? Because they want big government. They want you to rely on the government to think for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're in it with big tech and fake news, and they're all colluding to just have you guys scrolling on your phones, reading everything you see and believing it.
Right.
So that is all a plan. They're trying to make all the men very effeminate, so they're not going to fight back.
Right.
And they're trying to brainwash and dumb down everyone's brains through Hollywood, through news, and through big tech. And the censorship and the bias is really ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen, if you Google men can and look at the autocomplete and then look at women can and look at the autocomplete, I'll just leave it at that.
Right. Yeah, the autocomplete stuff is pretty funny.
Or here's another autocomplete you can try. Try Donald Trump E, see what comes up, and then try Hillary Clinton E and see what doesn't come up.
Emails.
Why would you say emails? What's
right?
what would Google possibly be trying to hide, and why?
Yeah, it's I ultimately, though, I do, is one of the things I talked about with the last guest, Lindsey, is that I ultimately do have hope. I ultimately think people are smarter than I want to give them credit for. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just be George Carlin in his last days. George Carlin in his last day was just, you're all diseased and fucking die and blah, blah, blah. I don't really want to be George Carlin in his last days because he was a miserable fucker. I love him to death until the day I die. But George Carlin was a miserable bastard the last few years, or at least up until maybe 4 months, 5, 6 months before he died. But I also think, you know, the people I've had on the show or the liberal fans who listen to this show, sure, I talk about politics sometimes, but I also talk about left stuff, you know, and the gay rights movement. I've had trans comedians on. I've had Pollo Del Mar, the drag queen, on. I've had anonymous female perverts. Like I run the gamut because ultimately, when you sit down, there's always something you can find that you agree with people on.
Yeah, we've all got a common ground. But it's interesting, you know, they want to act like they're so oppressed. The gays and the Muslims. The gays are so celebrated. They're not oppressed.
No,
you know who's oppressed? The Muslims aren't oppressed. You know who's oppressed in Muslim countries?
Right.
The gays and the Christians.
Yeah.
Okay, and you want to know who's really oppressed
and
here?
the Jews. I mean, let's, you know, them too.
You know, you want to know who's the social outcasts and social pariahs more than the gays here?
Conservatives.
No, it's the ex-gays and the ex-Muslims.
Okay.
Do you see them having a platform?
I don't hear a lot of ex-gays.
Yeah. You ever wonder why?
Well, I don't know.
Because I'm friends with several of them.
Guys who used to be gay who say
guys
they're not
and
gay
girls.
anymore?
No,
Okay.
and they literally aren't.
From my experience with females, they do have a more fluid sexuality. I've met girls who were, you know, actually 2 of my ex-girlfriends were like, that's it, I'm lesbian, no more. And then, you know, they come across me and they change their mind because I'm amazing.
Yeah, well, there could be other reasons for that.
Sure, true. Maybe they're after my money.
Right.
But yeah, I don't. For me personally, and this is just because I know gay dudes. I find that there's more solidness in the male sexuality. I don't meet a lot of dudes who are former gays. Maybe guys who are bisexual or guys who have tried it and then gone a different way. I meet a lot of dudes who are straight on their, you know, on paper and then change their mind or are, you know, but not as fluid as female from my experience, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the percentages are, but all I know is from personal experience. I know people.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, because you have more of a connection to the religious
exactly.
side of things.
Yeah,
I'm
so
a
for
dirtbag,
example,
so I don't know.
Right, you're in the other scene. So,
yeah.
For example, there's this guy Ramin Parsa. He's an ex-Muslim.
Oh, okay.
He got to America because he needed religious freedom. He was in Iran, right? And they were persecuted. Then he went to another Muslim country, also persecuted. He came over here and he thought he was free. Then he went to the Mall of America and got arrested for talking about Jesus to a Muslim who was asking him to talk about Jesus because another Muslim heard him talking about it and got offended. In America, got arrested for talking about Jesus. This is a religious refugee,
right?
And from Iran, and it's crazy. It's crazy that the news didn't talk about that barely at all. Did you even hear about it?
No.
Yeah, nobody hears about it. It's ridiculous.
Was there a scuffle, or was there?
There was nothing. Just the police came and they arrested him.
Okay.
They didn't let him call his lawyer. They didn't give him water. This guy was being treated like a complete criminal just because he talked about Jesus in America.
Right.
It's shocking. So that's one. But
I mean, I also had that experience where, like I was telling you on the way here, and I tweeted about it as well. You can find me on Twitter at Rule62Peter, I think. Anyway, that really pride has turned into just an excuse for 16-year-old to 23-year-old half-naked females from Hayward to come into San Francisco and get high in public. Like, that's it. Like,
yeah,
it's not even really like legit ass gays. Like, there's a couple who just want to get high and drunk, but ultimately, like, they don't go to the main stage. You know, like real ass gays, they don't go to the main stage. They might go to like the Eagle or a couple of like clubs and just hang out with the quieter bunch, or like actually gays. Real ass gays don't want to. They always make fun of the fact that there's a gaggle of fag hag. You know what a fag hag is? Yeah, gaggle of fag hags coming in and going loud, drunk, and just annoying them. You know what I mean? Like, that's what pride has turned into.
Well, it's true, and a lot of the LGBT community here has gotten really a little fed up with it. They're like, what are these BNT people coming in here, Bridge and Tunnel, and they're posers, you know.
Yeah, dude.
Party.
Yeah, they just want to party.
But they weren't here when they were fighting for their rights, you know. They're just here to and then they're taking over. It's like gentrification, but for the gays.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then on the other side, you've got the gays all saying like, and I'm talking about the activists when I'm saying this, because your normal gays aren't like this, but they're all saying like, you know, basically being black is like the new, or being gay is like the new black. It's like the blacks were persecuted and so were we. No, you weren't. No. Not in the same way.
Not in the same way. Close. Stonewall happened for sure, but like years of having a different goddamn water fountain at the very least. Years of being separated at the school and at church and at a fucking restaurant. Like years of being dog sicked on you and having the world all agree that that's a good idea. That's not the
It's not the same at all. And if you talk to black people these days, a lot of them are like pretty offended by that idea even. So it's like, come on, guys, you're just going too far and you're shooting yourself in the foot over and over again. And the hypocrisy is just ridiculous. Like, it's old news by now, but the Women's March with, Sarsour and like, you can't mix jihad and feminism. It doesn't really work.
No, that's why Camille Paglia is a big. You ever heard of Christina Summers? Christina Hoff Summers.
I think so. Yeah.
She's the factual feminist. Find her on YouTube. She's a blast. The factual feminist. She's also same thing as Camille Paglia. She and Christina are pretty close in line with a lot of the.
Yeah, she sounds. Was she on like
she
Clavin's show or something?
Yeah, for sure. She actually did a great talk with Milo and Steven Crowder.
Okay.
About 2 years ago. That one's a great one. That's where Steven Crowder goes off. You know, if you look up, Steven Crowder goes off on Jigglypuff, I think it was, or Trigglypuff or something like that, where he's like yelling at and making like fucking firing at him out at this crowd of protesters. That talk was phenomenal. I feel like I want to go watch that again. But yeah, I'll definitely share some of those videos with my Patreon people. But yeah, it's. I feel hope though, because most of the people, even the leftists that I've had on, are want free speech. Even the women who have had on who are pro-choice think 9 months is a little goddamn fucking crazy.
Right. Right.
And ultimately, you know, I think we're all, even the right-wing people who are anti-abortion that I've had on the show, feel like even though they kind of feel like 6 weeks, the what was it, the Georgia law, I think, Alabama law, that 6 weeks was a little too soon, even though they're anti-abortion and even though they ultimately think it is a child, call it what it is, we're all kind of somewhere in the middle and ultimately do not fucking take away my right to talk.
Yeah.
And the fact that, that's
then
why I really
everything's
appreciate your right. That's why I really appreciate your account, that you're pointing that out, Have you ever been received a message from Facebook or from Instagram?
No, I've gotten just the takedowns from Instagram.
Okay.
So for Facebook, I tried to put an account, but the first day I got taken down because they don't like anonymity. So if I'm not showing my real face and a driver's license, they're like, you're not welcome here. So,
Okay.
But I was able to use Instagram, so I'm still on there. And aside from Gavin's post, they took down a post that had Ilhan saying some people did something.
Right.
And I had a post on connected to that said Muslims did 9/11, and it had a picture of Osama bin Laden, and it had a list.
That's just true.
It's just literal. It's just a literal fact.
That's just true.
It's just. I mean, you could say maybe George Bush helped, or the Saudis government maybe helped, whatever.
Right.
Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't.
Sure.
Did Mossad help? People say that. I don't know.
Right.
But for sure, Muslims did it because we know what their names are. We know what their countries of origin are. And I listed those in the post.
Right.
And it's gone, so you can't see it. But I think it's still on Twitter. Well, I think those parts of the post are not on Twitter. I think I just had the Muslims did 9/11 part on there. So, yeah. And then another one. The other one that got taken away was just another person I was featuring. It was... this guy Greg, and this wasn't the same post, but since then he's also gotten banned from Tinder completely. They took down a picture that he had of him with Ted Cruz, and then the next day they took him down, or something like very soon after that they took him down. So the guy's taken down basically because he's conservative. He's always,
you can't even get laid if you're a conservative.
This guy's like military. He's like very build the wall. He's always wearing a Trump hat. He has pictures with all the famous Trump people, basically. Right. And so he's not on Tinder anymore. Right. But he will be at the Demand Free Speech rally on July 6th, 12 p.m. Freedom Plaza, Washington, D.C. And we're also having a Freedom Q&A VIP ballroom event, which is going to be 7 to 11 at an undisclosed location because the last two we tried, Eventbrite banned us, and and the venues themselves caved under pressure from Antifa.
You saw that thing that Mike Harlow and Brandon Straka from the Walkaway, how they
happened to them too.
That just happened
but they got a new location.
Chicago.
Yeah, they got so that's location. Good. They got some love.
They were
but
told
we're just
they got
not going to tell anyone
to do an event, and then the venue told them I think 5 p.m. the night before the goddamn event.
It's ridiculous. So we're just not going to tell anyone this time where it is until the day of. If you have bought a ticket from us,
as a thought criminal, you have to come to San Francisco. Anyway,
we did one already in San Francisco. Were you around for that?
No. Is that the one Lily was at?
Yes, she was there. This was May 3rd at City Hall. We were going to do it maybe at Twitter, but we decided it was going to be bigger than that, so we did it at City Hall.
Okay.
The first thing we really did, I wasn't there for, but February 20th, New York, they actually went to the Twitter building and did a protest. That was Laura Loomer and some other people videoed it. But in San Francisco, we had, educating liberals, Joe Biggs. We had Omar, who's running against Maxine, and we had Bernadine Barber. We had Brad Chadford. He's our token liberal for the San Francisco free speech event.
That's fun.
Yeah, but he's one of these liberals that will actually talk to someone on the right. He's like friends with InfoWars people and stuff. Nice. Yeah. Then we had Michaela. She's a Native American. We had Mindy Robinson. We had Ben and Will. Will from Unite America First. He's kind of an InfoWars guy too. So yeah, it's interesting because we have all these people and they're telling us that we're racist,
right?
And white supremacists and all this, and we're like, so what should we say to our people with our male, female, black, white, Native American, Hispanic, Jewish, Christian, atheist, like literally every kind of LGBTQ, we have one of every letter.
Yeah, right.
So what should we say to all, and we have both conservative and liberal. So what should we say to these people who are our speakers? So we basically have the same thing going on in DC. We've got Antifa going crazy against us, but we've got some big names. We've got Laura Loomer, Roger Stone, Milo Yiannopoulos, Gavin McInnes.
Fucking nice.
It's going to be pretty lit. But we've also got the guy who blew the whistle on Pinterest, the Project Veritas guy.
He's fucking great.
He's a San Franciscan. So
he is?
Well, I mean, he lives here. He works here.
He better come on my goddamn show.
Anyway. Well, if you ask him, he probably will. He's I think he's maybe in New York or something right now, but he'll be in D.C. and maybe later he'll be back here.
All right.
We got Ramin, the guy I was telling you about, the Muslim, ex-Muslim. We got Will Witt from Prager. So we've got some representation from various, and we've got 6 different people who are congressional candidates this time. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. They tried to shut down. They actually shut down our website for 24 hours. We were hosted by GoDaddy. I think we still are. And we called them and they're like, "What's going on?" They're like, ICANN took it down. So I called ICANN and they're like, "Oh, it was GoDaddy." And like GoDaddy, ICANN is like the
hosting service, or
no, it's like the people who control the internet, basically. I mean, you can look it up and learn the specifics and technicalities of it. But like, it used to be run by the U.S. and Obama handed over to the globalist elites. Anyways, this is just some consortium of people who decide internet things. And so they blamed each other. No one took responsibility for it. But our site was down for 24 hours. And basically, GoDaddy said it was the government who did it. And I had that call recorded. So if you want to go on my Instagram, you can actually go find my post about that. And you can see the recording. It's pretty interesting. And yeah, like I said, Eventbrite tried to ban us, so everybody's after us.
Right.
And, call us conspiracy theorists, but like, I have the proof right there. It really happened.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I keep talking about this, but like, I don't know exactly what the right way is to fight this thing. You know what I mean? I think continuing and being consistent is the biggest thing. Having these networks grow, like you and Walk Away, and me and Lindsey Graffwall and all these people continuing to talk about this stuff and what's actually going on. I don't want this, me personally, like I said, I'm mostly libertarian more than anything. I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. But I also want to talk about eating ass on my show. You know what I mean? Like I'm a foul boy. But I find that ultimately, let us talk, and when they're not letting us talk, there's got to be something bigger happening.
There's a lot of nefarious stuff happening with rich elites behind the scenes, and they're evil people. Frankly, they're evil. People don't want to talk about good and evil, but they are evil.
Yeah.
But it's true. We got to talk about what are we going to do, because we can't not do something.
Right.
And me posting about it.
Ooh,
sorry,
that's okay.
Just knocked something over. Me talking about it
on Instagram is
me talking about it on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube
Right.
is a little bit, but that's not enough. Everyone needs to, for one thing, be amplifying the voices of the voiceless. We all need to be talking about this stuff and bringing awareness, because a lot of people have no idea this is even happening or think it's a conspiracy theory.
Right.
But beyond that, everybody needs to come out to these rallies. This one will be 2 days from when this is aired. So
right. July 6th in Washington, D.C.
That's right. So come out to that. And then even if you can't come, everybody sign the petition, demandfreespeech.org/petition. You can read this petition. We've got a bunch of ideas on there for big tech and the government, and we're telling them what they should do.
Right.
And we've got some big names on that petition too.
Yeah.
But anyways, so sign the petition, attend the rally. If you can go to the VIP, the rally's free. The VIP is paid for. You go pay for it, and that helps support the cause. But beyond that, we need to support and pioneer new entrepreneurial efforts to have hosting companies and social media companies and payment processors that support free speech.
Okay.
We got Telegram, we got Gab, we got Minds, we got BitChute, Parler, Flock, Sayscape, all these different companies.
Right.
They're just trying to get by, and people need to get on them or they're useless. The social media platform without people on it is not really anything. So everyone needs to get on there. We need to stop giving everything to Twitter and Facebook and Google, they're just running everything
Right.
because we're letting them, and we're giving them our money, and we're giving them our ad money. So we're
Right.
going to do a thing called 48 Dark, hashtag
that.
48 Dark, where nobody's posting for 2 days.
July
And
2nd and 3rd, right?
that's right. And
Okay.
we're doing it quarterly, basically. But we're just going to hit them where it hurts, right in the pocketbook.
Okay. Well, good.
And then after that, go and support everybody who's doing lawsuits. Like Loomer is doing a lawsuit against Twitter and Care. Gavin is doing a lawsuit against the SPLC. Prager, Crowder, they're suing YouTube, Facebook, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These people need to be sued. They need to be taken down, and we need to
Right.
be supporting these people.
Right. Well, awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I mean, sfthoughtcriminal.com, demandfreespeech.org. You can find everything on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, and I have a Patreon too.
Oh, good.
So I'd
Wh-
appreciate it if
what do
people want to
they-
support me.
SF Thought Criminal on Patreon? Or?
Yeah, it's on the website too. I link to it right at the top of my sfthoughtcriminal.com.
Great.
So yeah, SF Thought Criminal on Patreon. I've got, as of right now, I've got 10 Patreons, 88 per month. Definitely not enough to live off of in San Francisco. But
No.
did I mention that I got fired basically for this activism?
No.
I can't prove that that's what happened, but
Right.
I told my boss's boss. I told my boss about what I'm doing.
Okay.
And then the next week I got fired after working there for 3 years. So maybe it's why.
Maybe. Yeah. Interesting.
But I got a different job. It pays about half as much, doing more web stuff. So I'm getting by. But if you guys want to help me on Patreon, if you go to the right tier, I'll make you your own Thought Criminal poster.
Ooh. Just like I got one just for being cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You can support mine at patreon.com/conservatish. Find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. New episode every Monday and Thursday, but you won't know unless you subscribe, you bastards. So go down there right now on the YouTube, hit the little bell, put subscribe, leave us a review, comment, like, subscribe, you bastards. And again, August 17th, big album release party, Brick and Mortar Music Hall, Pollo Del Mar, the drag queen, as well as DJ Kevy Kev and more guests to be announced later on. I'll be sharing the link soon. And happy July 4th, everybody. And thank you very much for coming on.
God bless America.
Bye.